So most of you are probably asking yourselves, what the heck is kasudi? And I'm going to tell you, it's not the latest vegetable that Rashid is growing up at Truly Living Well Center. It's actually a Swahili word that means purpose. In Africa, there's a saying that a life without purpose is a life without meaning. I spent years trying to find my purpose, trying to figure out what it was that I was meant to be. Because, see, I thought that if I could just figure out what I was supposed to be doing, then I could try and find true happiness. And I would look and I would get inspired. And like probably many of you, I would look on the internet and I would read stories about people who had done amazing things, people who had overcome tremendous tragedies, had overcome tremendous hurdles to make an impact in the world. And I would get inspired. Or I would read about people who sacrificed everything. They gave up everything and they went and they did tremendous things like going to Africa and helping with Ebola. And I would get inspired. And I would think, I could change the world. Can't I? But then, instead of getting up from our desk, we don't go and join the Peace Corps, but we relegate ourselves instead to clicking the donate button. And we feel good about ourselves for about 28 seconds until that next big project comes on our desk. I think that most of us want to do something meaningful. Most of us want to find a life that we've got purpose. Most of us want to make a difference. But what we do is we give in to the chatter inside of our heads that tells us that our thoughts are unrealistic. We give in to those notions that we're being impractical, that it's impossible, that we're really too small to make a difference. But I'm here to tell you that you're not. That you can find your kasudi. You can live your kasudi, live your purpose. You can make a difference. It's not impractical. It's not impossible. It's not unrealistic. And it's not irresponsible. And the simple truth is that we don't have to give up our job. You don't have to leave your family. You don't have to give up all your worldly possessions to find your purpose, to find your kasudi. And why do I believe this? Why do I know this? Why do I know that you all can make a difference? Because I'm no different than you. See, I'm not one of those amazing people who gave up everything. And I'm a pretty average person. I didn't overcome a lot of tragedies in life. I didn't have a horrible childhood. I'm just an ordinary person. An ordinary girl, an ordinary lady who lives next door to some of you with a husband, with a family, who found a way to make an impact without giving up my career. So if I can do it, then I know that you guys can do it too. And I know that it seems difficult and overwhelming to think about finding my purpose. What is the road to my purpose, the path to my kasudi? But it's not as daunting as you might think. Because if you just start with the notion of giving back, just give back a little bit at a time. It's amazing how that can grow. I don't know if you guys heard about it. I thought it was interesting. A woman a couple days ago in Florida was in a Starbucks drive-thru. And I think probably some of you have heard about it. She gave the cashier extra money and said, I want to pay for the person's coffee behind me. And some of you guys might have done that too. You know, I loved the Georgia toll booth because I used to always pay for the person behind me. And it always made me feel like I might have just made their day. And they'll never know who I am. But just that 50 cents, it's not a lot. You know, that drive-through, the person behind her, I bet the person behind her felt really good that day. Wow, somebody offered to pay for my coffee. You know what else made her feel good? Because she said, I'm not going to take that free coffee. I want to give it to the person behind me. went on for 12 hours before somebody finally accepted the free cup of coffee. When you give back just a couple of dollars or just a little bit of your time, it can grow exponentially. And the feeling, the perspective that you get in life changes for the better. Another thing that happens when you start to give back is you start to open doors. And you'll start to find that there are opportunities out there that present themselves to make an impact in ways that you never, ever even imagined. I started my path to my purpose about 15 years ago. Started looking for what it was that I was supposed to be. I was a young lawyer, and I had started climbing that corporate ladder, looking for success, and I finally achieved my goal. I made equity partner at my firm. Everything was supposed to be great. Something was missing. There just wasn't a real meaning in my life. I needed to find purpose. I needed to make an impact. And what I started realizing was that the people who make the biggest impact are people who are passionate about what they believe in. So I started my inner search for my passion. What was I passionate about? And it led me back to some of the happiest times in my life. And I started reflecting on when was I the happiest. It took me back to when I was 13 years old. When I was 13 years old, I started volunteering at the zoo. Now, I was kind of a dorky kid. I didn't go shopping. I didn't go to the movies. I spent my time volunteering with animals at the zoo. And I know you're looking at that picture right now, looking at my haircut and saying, well, it's no wonder her best friends were animals. But it made me happy. And even though I spent 75% of my time cleaning up monkey poop, it didn't matter because those hours went by like minutes. The little bit of time that I got to spend with the gorillas and the chimps and the other animals touched my soul. And it touched me so deeply in a way that I can't even express. It gave me a feeling of happiness and contentment that was indescribable. The other thing from my past that gave me a sense of purpose, that gave me a sense of meaning, that gave me a passion, that lit a fire within me, was working with underprivileged kids, volunteering at a camp for kids with cancer. What about you? What's your passion? What is it that moves you? What is it that lights a fire within you? See, we all have different things that are important to us, and that's one of the amazing things about following your passion in order to give back. Because if we all had the same passion, we'd only change one thing in the world. But if you each tap into that unique passion that you have, and you give back in that area, then we can impact the whole world. So what is it that makes you passionate? For us, it's all different. We all have something different. Some of us, it may be a passion for preserving amazing works of art. It may be that you have a passion for animals or for saving the rainforest. It could be that your passion, that your drive isn't based out of something that made you happy, but it's out of something, a tragic experience that you've had. Maybe your passion is to cure breast cancer because you've had a family member or a loved one who faced that disease. Maybe it's something that's derived out of a thirst for knowledge. Perhaps it's preserving or teaching about history or astronomy. Whatever it is, we all have something that's different. Now, each of you on your table should have a little piece of paper called Finding Your Kasuti, Causes That I'm Passionate About. And I encourage you, take out that piece of paper and write down 2 or 3 things that come to mind as far as what you're passionate about. What is it that moves you? What is it that when you think about it, when you talk about it, you get a twinkle in your eye? What is it that maybe moves you so much that you can't talk about it without bringing a tear to your eye? What is it that lights a fire within you? What is it that when you do it, time just passes? You can spend hours and it feels like minutes. Think about something that's deep inside you that moves you. And now make a commitment. Make a commitment to try and do some research. Find a cause, because there are causes all over the place. Maybe your passion is for gardening. And you can go and reach out to the Truly Living Well Center. Whatever your passion is, find a cause that relates to that passion and allows you to live that passion. And make a commitment to that cause. Now, as you're thinking about that cause, I want you to start small. Think about volunteering, not just your time, but think about your natural talents. What is it that you're naturally good at? What is it that you can't not do well? Maybe you're a natural mentor. Maybe you're a natural leader. But when you start small and you give of your natural talents, time's going to pass. And hours are going to seem like minutes. And you're going to feel that much more satisfied with what you're doing. But so many of us get overwhelmed and we don't commit to giving back because we feel like it's such a big commitment. So start small. For me, I started with giving back in 1998. I started looking for causes that related to great apes because that was one of my passions. And I started giving of my legal services. That's a talent that I had. And so I started giving back, volunteering my legal services to help these causes. For one cause, it was helping them find zoning for a wildlife sanctuary up in North Georgia. I got involved with the Great Ape Project. I eventually became the International Great Ape Project president. Had an opportunity to be a part of some legislation in Spain, the first legislation to grant legal rights to great apes. Because those small steps will open the door to bigger opportunities. One of the first and most impactful opportunities that presented itself for me was the opportunity to go and volunteer in Africa. A dream I never had thought would be a reality. And I had an opportunity to go and work for a couple of weeks at a wildlife sanctuary in Cameroon, Africa. And that gave me a chance to go the extra mile. It opened the door for a dream that I once discounted as being unrealistic, impossible, the opportunity to work with chimps and gorillas again. And it became a reality. A couple years later, my husband and I went back to Africa for our honeymoon. I know some of you are thinking, really, you're going to volunteer on your honeymoon? But yes, he's as crazy as I am. So we went back to Africa and we volunteered for a couple of weeks for our honeymoon. And that opened another door. It opened another opportunity. Because going back, we started to get to know the workers. And we started to get to know their families. And we started to become passionate about the people who were making an impact on the animals that we cared so much about. You see, when you start to live your purpose, you start to want to make an even bigger impact. And oftentimes the path to your purpose can be found by following your passions. What happened for us is that following our passion led us to an understanding about the public education system in many of the countries in Africa. We got to know the workers, and we started to see how they struggled to send their kids to school. Not just an entire family, an entire village would work to send one kid to school because, you see, the public education doesn't go past the second grade in many of those countries. So anything past that you have to pay for. And 85% of the population, particularly these sanctuary workers, can't afford that. So an entire village would work to send one kid to school because they knew that if that kid could go to school, that kid would become a leader in the community. And that was a way out of poverty, not just for that child, but for the family and for that entire village to be able to send that kid to school. So we learned that that was something that they struggled with in a country where conservation isn't really valued. But these conservation workers were striving to make a difference. We also learned that A lot of them, like I said, couldn't afford to send their kids to school, but the cost to send their kids to school was just $300 to $500 a year. And it hit us like a ton of bricks. We can do that. We can send a kid to school. I mean, we may not be able to change the world, but we can change one kid's world, can't we? And so we came back and we decided to make a commitment. We decided that we wanted to change the world, not the entire world in one full sweep, but we wanted to change the world for 15 kids and their families. So we committed to sending these kids to school, not just for a year, but we were committed to sending these kids to school until they graduated, as long as they made grades. And we started off with a group of kids between the ages of 6 and 12. And we started that program of developing these future leaders in conservation. Well, you know what happened? We got back, and our friends and our family started realizing they could make a difference. For $300 a year, they could change a child's life. And so the notion started growing. By 2011, we started our nonprofit, Children of Conservation. It's 501c3. And it's a small nonprofit. We're not big. We do both still have our day jobs. We do both still have careers. But as of today, we now have a commitment to over 100 children to fund them through the end of high school, as long as they keep their grades, in 5 different countries in Africa. One of the most rewarding things was this trip this year. We went back, and a couple of the kids who were in that first group of 15, who were 12 years old, came to see us from university. They started university this year. Michael, who's in the circle in the picture there, he's studying to be an accountant. And he gave a talk to all the kids in our program, and he talked about how important it is for them to honor the scholarship program and to work as hard as they can, and to remember that as a leader in their community, no matter what they're doing, as an accountant, as a doctor, as a lawyer, that they have the ability to have a voice to change the perception of the importance of conservation. Stephanie, another one of our kids, came back to see us. She's studying anthropology in university. You see, for us, following our passion gave us our purpose. It was what led us to find out what our purpose in life was. Now, if you think about it, going to Africa and helping kids and helping animals couldn't seem further away from being a hospitality lawyer in Atlanta, Georgia. Was living a double life. Never, ever expected that those two worlds would intersect. But it's interesting how when you start to live your purpose, when you start to live with purpose, how everything starts to come full circle. You start to find how things evolve. What happened for me was that my restaurant clients started hearing about what we were doing in Africa, and they became interested. And they started to become passionate about what we were doing and started offering to help us with fundraising efforts. And through that, we became friends. We got to know each other on a totally different level. So when a year and a half ago, one of the chefs at one of my clients' restaurants was diagnosed with stage 4 gallbladder cancer, his bosses knew where to come to ask for advice about starting a fundraiser. And what we learned through that fundraiser is that Ryan Heidinger's story, the chef who was ill, his story wasn't unique. There are a lot of people in the hospitality industry, in the restaurant industry, who face unanticipated hardship. And what happened through Ryan's illness is that Ryan and his bosses found their passion. They found their purpose to help other members of the restaurant industry who were facing unanticipated hardship. And what happened for me? Well, I found a new passion too. A passion for helping those people who I had grown to love through my career as a lawyer. And so we started the Giving Kitchen. Now, with the Giving Kitchen is a nonprofit, and the whole purpose of the Giving Kitchen is to provide crisis funds for members of the restaurant industry with unanticipated hardships. And in less than a year, we've provided grants to dozens of people who have been faced with brain tumors, motorcycle accidents, injuries, giving them that opportunity to make ends meet. So now not only was I able to find a way to have purpose in my personal life, but my career, my professional life had purpose and had a sense of meaning. See, what I learned throughout the process was that our purpose in life may change, and it can evolve. We may have more than one purpose in life. The other thing that I figured out was that happiness isn't so much in finding our purpose, but it's more about living our life with purpose. What I've learned through this whole experience is that so many times we don't have to give up our career. And I'll tell you, those people who do, and those people who have overcome a hardship, I have the utmost respect and admiration for them. I wish, sometimes I feel like, gosh, I wish I was a better person. I wish I was willing to give everything up to make an impact. But the fact of the matter is that we don't have to do that. A lot of us aren't in a position to give up our careers, and we don't have to give up our career to make a difference. In fact, a lot of times, if we live our purpose, our career will actually be better. We'll have a more satisfying career. The other thing that I've learned is that each and every one of you, each and every one of us, has the power to change the world, even if it's just one project at a time. We have the power to make a difference if we just follow our passion and we give of our unique and special talents. So my challenge to you today is to search inside and find your passion. Find something that drives you, something that inspires you, something that lights that fire. Then to give of your natural talents to a cause that helps you live that passion. And to take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves. That first trip to Africa was not at a good time, but it worked. I followed my passion and I went, and you know what? My career was still there, my family was still there, and it worked. Take advantage of those opportunities and live your life with Kasudi. Because in the words of Winston Churchill, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. I'm available for a minute and a half if anybody has any questions. No questions? All right.